On today's episode of Saints Happy Hour podcast, me and Kevin are going to do the worst case scenario for the 2025 Saints draft. This is the stuff nightmares are made of. Thomas, hit that intro.
Welcome to Saints Happy Hour podcast. We never trade up.
There was a path to give up 3 first-round picks to get Jaden Daniels. I would do it. And I would pick Jaden Daniels.
Now grab a drink and enjoy the show.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Saints Happy Hour podcast. If you find us on the YouTubes, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave a comment in the algorithm. It helps us make more money for the podcast, support the show, doesn't cost you a dime. Do it. It helps us. We appreciate you. All right, I got Kevin with me. I got Thomas running the show back in Poland. So this is part 2 of our little series that we're doing we did the best case scenario for the Saints draft, and now we're doing the worst case. And I'm not gonna cheat and just be like, the worst case is Saints trade up, do something irresponsible, because they've done that in the past, although they didn't do it last year, thank God, that much. But we're just gonna set up the scenario in the draft where it's the worst case scenario for the Saints, and it makes it either harder for them to make a good pick at 9, or they do something irresponsible. So Kevin, like, what's your, not just obviously the Saints trade up, we know for me and you and a lot of people that's the worst case scenario, but like, what's the building to that point, or what's the scenario when we're watching the draft where you're starting to get really scared that things are going bad for the Saints? It's the worst case scenario, and not only is it going bad, the Saints are going to compound it by maybe doing something stupid. So like, what's that scenario for you?
Okay, so let's revamp this. Saints are picking at 9. Worst case scenario is there are not one of the 8 teams makes a reach. It's only 2 quarterbacks that go ahead of them. It's only, hang on, I'm pulling up the big board here. Abdul Carter goes, McMillan goes, the wideout from Arizona, Graham goes, Will Johnson goes. So it's like you're looking at okay, like you're looking at Malachi Starks, the safety.
Yeah.
You're looking at Will Campbell, a tackle who could probably be moved to a guard. And you're looking at Luther Burden, the wideout from Mizzou, who is under 6 feet tall. And then your 2 options at edge, is a redshirt sophomore Mike Green from Marshall, and a junior out of Tennessee, James Pierce.
The kid from Marshall, he killed it so much at the Senior Bowl. He did 1 practice, and then he was like, George Costanza, I'm out. And he's like, I'm done. I'm flying home.
Yeah, I mean,
like that's how good he looked.
When you're like that, yeah, absolutely. I get it. But 6'4", under 250, like again, redshirt sophomore. It's like none of those guys light the world on fire.
Well, I will say this
at 9.
I will say Will Campbell would bore us to tears because he's another offensive lineman. That would be like 3 out of 4 that they've picked.
Right. Right. But the word,
I think he would be
the word
good.
on him is that he would be a guard, which is something the Saints do need. Yeah. It's just
at 9,
right?
Like if you pick if you pick a guard at 9, if he doesn't go to Canton, you probably could have done better by picking somebody else.
If he's not a Pro Bowler, if he's not an immediate starter, if he is not an immediate difference maker, then the pick was a failure.
That's right. My worst case scenario, I've got a couple of them. My biggest one that would just strike fear into my heart would be the Saints move on from Derek Carr, which I know maybe as some of you in this podcast would like, and you'd be like, yeah, I hate Derek Carr. He's terrible, blah, blah, and they'd be excited. But that would put fear into my heart, Kevin, because here's the thing. If you're Kellen Moore for the Saints and you move on from Derek Carr, and they're not going to spend in free agency, so you're not going to switch out Derek Carr for like another mid quarterback like Sam Darnold or whatever. You're probably going in like the Justin Fields, Russell Wilson 1 year $5 million bucket. And if the Saints move on from Derek Carr, my fear would be Kellen Moore has decided we're moving on from Derek Carr. Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders is my guy. And Mickey Loomis is willing to do something irresponsible at 9 to get up in the draft to get the quarterback that Kellen Moore wants. And he'd want a quarterback in a weak quarterback draft, and you're burning future assets for a crappy roster to get a quarterback that I'm not sure is going to be any good. That's one of my worst case scenarios for the Saints. And that's kind of like selfishly, that's like I don't like if they keep Carr for this year, I'll be like, okay, we're just gonna keep Carr. We're not gonna dip our foot, our pinky toe in this quarterback waters yet. We're just gonna ride it out. Maybe they trade down, stay at 9. But if Carr is gone, I go to like, I don't know what level you want to put it at, but I'll be panicked that like trading up to get a quarterback is in play at 9, and I hate that. And I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Especially this year, because I don't think either one of those guys are any good.
Oh, Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah, I just like if one of them fell to 9 and Kellen Moore was like, I loved Cam Ward and we didn't think we could get him. We weren't willing to trade up, but he fell to 9 and he's my guy and they got him. I wouldn't love it, but I'd be like, hey, Kellen Moore, you're the coach. You made the decision. I'll support you. I want the Saints to win. It's cool. But if you're like trading up and you're trading like this year's second and next year's first to get Shedeur Sanders or Cam Moore, Jesus Christ, help me. I'll need hard drugs.
I mean, yeah, okay. Like you want worse, like, yes, worst case scenario is they trade. I don't care who it's for. The worst case scenario is this team trades up.
Well, but I know that, but that's what I said. But
for
like,
anybody.
What's the scenario where you think that's where that becomes a distinct possibility? And that's why I mentioned Derek Carr leaving, because I think if Derek Carr leaving, that becomes a
you're saying
more
Derek
of a
Carr,
possibility.
You're saying Derek Carr is going to get cut before the draft.
I mean, that I don't think he is, but this is my worst case.
You look at worst case scenario, he would get cut before.
Well, they could designate him June 1st, post June 1st.
And it would be public that he was going to be released, and so the Saints would go into the draft knowing we got to get a quarterback here.
Yeah, or they'd have to get. They'd probably have to get. They'd have to do that, or they'd have to get a really crummy bridge quarterback. You're talking about your Minshews, your Justin Fields, your Russell Wilsons, because they ain't gonna have no money in free agency. So like you're talking about a bottom of the barrel guy,
right? Ugh.
I had.
Boy, you really sucked all the energy out of the room here, Ralph. You took the wind out of my sails, so to speak.
Well, it is worst case scenario. I mean, that's what we're doing here. You know?
God.
Because
I'm looking at this like worst case scenario is, yeah. My brain is melting right now. That's the problem. My brain is melting.
The thing is with you and Will Campbell, that doesn't bother me as much. I mean, that's like the most I don't know if this is the worst case. It is the most boring. Like, we picked an LSU guy and we picked him 9th and we picked another offensive lineman. We need offensive linemen. Yay. But it's like, we've been picking offensive linemen. Like, could we do something else? I also, too, I think I wonder if there is a scenario where there is a player that the Saints really, really like, and he's not a quarterback, and they get antsy. That's another of my worst case scenarios. Like Like, because here's the thing, like, it's, you know this, Kevin, it's so freaking expensive when you get in the top 10, even to go from like 9 to 6, 9 to 7. Like, it's so expensive. It's you to go to 9 to 7 is like a third round pick. So, like, that's another one of my worst case scenarios where it was like, there's a player that the Saints feel like, oh, we had him ranked second on our board and he's there at 7. We got to move. Like, and the Saints do that all the freaking time. So that's another worst case scenario for me, not in a sense of not just trading up. We know it's they're always prone to do it. What is a player?
If the Saints wanted to trade up, let me run you the math here. If the Saints wanted to trade up from 9 to say 6, where the Raiders are, it would likely cost you the third round pick.
Oof.
That's 200. So the 6th pick overall is worth 1,600 points. The 9th pick is worth 1,350. That's a gap of 250 points. Mm-hmm. The Saints' third round pick is worth 235 points. So you would have to hope that the Raiders would say, we're fine with the, like a minus 15 point differential, which that might be a wash on this sheet for some teams. So you'd have to hope that the Raiders would be fine also doing a pick swap and getting the Saints' third rounder. But all that to just move up 3 spots, that would be a nightmare scenario. Like, I guess if the Saints fell so in love with a player, and obviously you would think it would have to be the Arizona wide receiver.
I don't like him.
But again, I'm thinking like offense here.
Good, yeah.
But let's say that I almost called him Will Graham. Let's say that Kellen Moore whoever he gets as his defensive coordinator. Let's say he convinces Kellen Moore to say, "Listen, we've got to get one of these defensive guys. They are elite." Mm-hmm. They are guaranteed to make the starting roster. They can be a difference maker. And Kellen Moore says, "You know what? I will do that to help the defense and do that. But the rest of the way, I've got to look at offense first."
Yeah.
So we trade up and grab Abdul Carter or Mason Graham. But then the rest of the way, we're on our back foot. Yeah, because now it becomes we have to hit on these offensive players, whoever they are.
And you shrink. And the thing is, the thing is with the Saints, it was so incredible about 2016 and 2017 is they drafted 12 guys.
Yeah.
In 2016 and 2017 drafts. And you can make an argument. The only guy they missed on was Daniel Lasco, the running back of Cal. All the other ones were either Pro Bowl or starting caliber player. Even Muhammad, the defensive lineman that they traded up for in the 7th round in 2017, he's still bouncing around the league. So when you pick a 7th round guy in 2017 and it's 2025 and he's still bouncing around the league making plays every now and then, like that's a hit. So but the thing is, you did going 11 of 12 on hits for pick. That doesn't happen. That's like most of the time, if you hit 40 to 50% of your picks, you're doing good. The other scenario that I think is potentially bad for the Saints, but I'm not sure, and I'm going to ask you this because I remember when the Saints, even when they were struggling 2014, 2015, 2016, and they needed to get better, we still were we would always worry about a run on a position because we're like, man, the Saints need a defensive lineman or they need a corner. When they have all these runs on these corners before we pick in the middle of the first round because we went 7 and 9. If they have a run on defensive players, we're kind of screwed. Now, Kevin, is it a thing where I was going to say a worst case scenario is like there's a run at a position, but is this roster now so devoid of talent? Like if they just have a run at defensive linemen, it doesn't matter. You're just like, all the good defensive linemen are gone. Okay, just give us the best corner. Give us the best. Like a run at a position doesn't really hurt the Saints now because their roster is so crummy that that's not something we should worry about for worst case scenario.
That's a fair point. The other thing that occurred to me is worst case scenario, Kellen Moore has a philosophy, either Kellen Moore has this philosophy or he, for whatever reason, adapts the philosophy of we're going to take the best guy available. We're going to take best guy available regardless of position. So if the best guy on quote unquote their board is we're going to take a safety instead of taking a wide receiver or taking a tight end or taking a whatever, it's like we have this safety rated higher. We'll take him. Okay, we're down later. We'll take this tight end over a guy.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind best player available after the first round. But where I kind of draw the line with best player available is if you're picking at 9, you can't pick a guard, you can't pick a safety, and you really can't pick a tight end. Because if you pick any one of those 3 and they aren't elite Pro Bowl, borderline Hall of Fame players, you kind of have wasted your pick. Like you can't pick a Marcus Williams, who the Saints picked in the second round in 2017, was really good for the Saints, Pro Bowl level player. We'll pretend the Minnesota Miracle didn't happen for this discussion. Borderline Pro Bowl player, borderline elite. Great pick in the second round. You pick that at 9, that's a borderline bust, right? So that's where I draw the line, best player available. If the Saints pick a guard or they pick a safety at 9, Kevin, you might have to travel to Houston to keep sharp objects away from me on draft night.
Or if they take, or if they take that if they take Luther Burden. Like Luther Burden is rated higher than the Ohio State wide receiver. So let's say somebody reaches, quote unquote reaches, and they take the Ohio State wideout. So that way there is no possibility that the Saints could consider him. But let's say they took Luther Burden at 9. The guy's 5'11". Like the Saints need wide receiver help, but that can't be the first the Saints have so much depth, have so many problems at depth at wide receiver that drafting a 5'11" guy, I can't buy it. I can't buy it at the next level.
And here's the thing. I just look at him and I look at a couple other players. I look at Cam Ward, and I look at some of these guys. I just believe that the mock drafts we see now and the mock drafts we see in late April are going to be vastly, vastly different. Who was the kid that was the quarterback from Liberty? I forget his name.
Malik Willis?
Malik Willis. That kid was
How the hell do I remember that?
Malik Willis, when that draft, he was 2022, I think it was. He was mocked everywhere in the top 20. He was mocked to the Saints first round. The kid didn't go to the 4th round, and he's actually turned his career around. He's going to be a quality backup in the NFL for a lot of years. He turned his career around.
Third round, he went.
3rd round. So, but my point is, I just think a lot of these players, like the wide receiver you mentioned, and other guys, they're going to shake out, and it's not going to go that way, especially this year. We'll see. But I think, again, this is an interesting discussion, and I like it because it's not just, I want this player for the Saints. If they don't get him, that's if they pass on him or he's not there, that's worst case scenario. I think that's not. I like to take a broader discussion on it.
I think the best thing, my advice to anybody, don't have one player. Don't have one player or one position that you are in love with or focused on, have 3. Don't just have 2. Have 3.
Yeah.
Have 3 positions that you say, okay, if the Saints got this at 9, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Or 3 players that you were really happy, that you would really be happy for, and then go from there. Because obviously wide receiver is a need. But if they pick that Luther Burden guy from Mizzou, then you can look at it like, okay, then it was a problem because the team addressed wide receiver, but they got a guy that isn't worth the pick at 9.
Yeah.
But don't just say, oh, if they draft this guy, it's a problem, or if they draft this position, it's a problem.
Yeah.
That goes beyond the first round. That is throughout.
Yeah. And here's an interesting thing: is this is the worst case scenario podcast, but maybe we should have put this for the best case. But we'll do it now. You know what? I was just thinking, Kevin, when you draft at 9, they've said in this draft, I've seen the experts. A lot of them say there's 8 really elite players in this draft, or some of them think there's 9. Right? Different experts, and you don't know. So with the Saints, though, the thing that makes it interesting to me is the Saints could be in this really strange position where a lot of teams have like tiers of guys, and a lot of teams, most teams in fact, don't have first round grades on 32 guys. They'll have first round grades on like 16, 18 guys, and then they'll have like 6 to 8 guys that they like really love, and they're like a cut above. I wonder at 9, it could be a double-edged sword in that like the Saints have like 7 guys that they feel are like a cut above. And it could be worst case scenario where me and you and a lot of people, they panic, they move up to get that last guy, that he's the like last premium elite guy on their board. And we got to move from 9 to 7 to get him. But on the flip side, if there's only 7 elite guys or 8, and the Saints think are a cut above, and when they pick at 9, they're all gone because either they couldn't move up or they just decided to hang tight. It does potentially, Kevin, increase the likelihood that they'll trade down, because they may look at their board and be like, we had 7 elite guys, they're all freaking gone, we're picking at 9, and picks 9 to 30, they're all pretty much the same, or there's 6 guys left, 7 guys left that we think are all the same. Sure, Dallas, sure, Sean Payton, we'll trade down to 20 because one of these 8 guys that we all rate the same, they'll be there, we're pretty sure. So maybe it makes them, it's like a double-edged sword. It could force them to panic and trade up and be worst case scenario, or if they're all gone, it could make them more likely to trade down. So that was just one interesting scenario that I.
No, it's like the one before it. You say something, you go on this like 3-minute,
right,
this 3-minute thing, and it's like, yes, I agree. I'm nodding.
The only thing I'll say, and we'll end on this,
okay,
is thank the good Lord in heaven that the Broncos are picking behind the Saints. Because here's the thing. Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis have shown they're kind of similar in that they fall in love, they love to trade up, they love to get their guy. And that with Sean Payton behind the Saints, the traffic for the Saints can only go one way. I would be petrified if if they had Bo Nix and like Denver was picking 3rd or something. I would be panicked that Mickey would get on the phone with Sean and be like, I'll give you whatever you want, Sean. I just need to move up to get Shador or get Ward. But now I think Denver is going to be more likely in that. So I'm going to end it here, Kevin. I feel like the worst case scenario for the Saints come draft night is less likely to happen than the best case. The worst case is, I think things are going to fall right for the Saints on draft night or fall okay. I don't think the worst case scenario is going to be in play. What say you?
No, I don't. then again, look, we haven't even hired the coach yet. I know we all think it's Kellen Moore, but get him in the building and have him talk to people, and we'll see who knows who and gets a feel for the guy, or a better feel for the guy. And we can figure out if we can put the whole they're not going to trade up. I want to be able to put that to bed, that they're not going to trade up.
Yeah.
I would like to, if we can put that to bed, I'll feel okay.
Yeah.
I think I outlaid this at the end of the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Is I kind of just see this situation where you're going to have like maybe two options at best for trading down, and it won't be Godfather offers. They'll be decent. They won't be Godfather offers,
Mm-hmm.
and it's either you take one of those offers or you take, you're looking at, do we take the guy from Mizzou? Do we take one of the edge defenders who we don't think are elite? Like, they could obviously come in and start, but we don't think they're worth taking at 9.
Yeah. I think
you're looking at a situation like that.
I think you make a great point. You want to hear things from Kellen Moore that will ease your fear of the worst case scenario. And I have two things. We talked about Derek Carr. Derek Carr's on the roster. I'll feel better that they won't do something reckless for a quarterback in this draft, which I think is bad. But the second thing that I want to hear, I don't expect Kellen Moore to say we're not trading up 100%. I don't expect him to talk in that specific. But it is press conference, Kevin. If he's talking about this is a long-term project, you got to be patient. This is going to take a lot of work. And he doesn't talk like a guy of we're really close. And he talks about building stick with us. And he talks about the roster, not in a negative way, but not necessarily in a positive way. And like, hey, we got to do some stuff. It's going to take a minute. Then I'll be more relaxed and I'll be like, okay, they get it. They understand what time it is. So that's the two things that I'm looking for to sort of ease my mind that the worst case scenario is less likely to happen. But again, I enjoyed this podcast. Kevin, I used to be into like apocalypse movies, world ending type movies. But then COVID came along, and I'm not really into that anymore. I used to be like the end of days and all that. I used to love those, But now,
what's funny? What's funny is I'm the opposite. COVID hits, and I started reading a lot again, and I'm reading, Station 11, The Wanderers, which is basically like a more up-to-date version of The Stand. Books like that, like post-apocalyptic or dystopian futures, like shit. Right now I'm pouring through a bunch of Warhammer books, which it's whatever. In the grim darkness of the future, there is only war. That's what we're looking at right now.
See, I don't want any of that. I'm going light comedy mystery novels now. I don't Hyacinth. Like I don't like, I've seen it. I saw it with COVID. It was too bleak. I want to go into make believe land of happiness and rainbows and trees and unicorn.
Right.
So I think I'm going to be positive, and we're going to have a best case scenario for the Saints draft, not a worst case, even though that's what this podcast is. So guys, thanks for joining us. If you liked what you saw, go to patreon.com/Saints Happy Hour. Check us out. We're the best Saints community on the internet. We have a private Discord. You can chat there instead of dealing with the dreck of social media. It's amazing. You should do it. Leave a comment in the YouTube. It helps us out. Get the video seen by more people, and it doesn't cost you anything. We'd appreciate it. So for Kevin, for Thomas running the back, running the show
back in Poland.
Yes, him. He's the best in the business. I'm not currently. Until next time. The bar is closed.